Hello.
Hello, hello.
Let me go ahead and start the recording here.
Awesome.
All right. Well, happy Friday afternoon, Joanne.
Well, seriously, it's gorgeous outside.
No, it is beautiful. It is so nice. Rhodey, my cat, has been laying outside all day. She's been very,
Oh, oh, I love it. I love it. I caught
yeah.
my puppy in the sun. So yes,
Oh,
they absolutely can't be without it. So
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. All right. So for this week, we are talking about one of my favorite Bill Withers songs, which is Lean on Me. I love this song. And I really enjoyed doing the cover for it because I normally do I play a lot of acoustic guitar, and this one I play piano on, which is something I've been learning. So it's fun I could do that.
It's so
And
funny how you say you've just been learning because I watch you and the way you were, it just doesn't look like you've just been learning.
every day, practicing every and just trying to make sure I can connect the music into the feeling that I'm feeling, hoping that it comes out. And that song, there's so many topics with that song, but the main one I think we're going to focus on, especially, I was thinking there's kind of two main topics. The first one is what the song I think really means, which is like what it feels when people lean on you. And this song is asking friends and close ones to lean on me.
Absolutely.
And the point in the song was when he says that for it won't be long until I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. And it's this community building. I'm getting chills as I'm saying this. So I thought we could talk some about like how it feels to us and to everyone here when we're asked for help. And then maybe later on we can talk about like some of the hurdles we all feel when we do realize we need help and then asking for it.
Right. Yeah, that's the piece right there is the realization that we don't have to do it alone. Yeah, I actually really the power of community and the power of knowing that you're not alone, it just catapults your ability to move forward in life. It really gives you at least it gives me the sense of, okay, I've got this. I've got this. And when someone comes to me for anything, it's that feeling there's trust, there's compassion, there's hope. It all kind of blends together. And you brought me to tears singing that cover just because I feel that in your heart. I felt your heart right in every word and the way that you were bringing that forward. And that's actually how I feel when someone reaches out. It's this feeling of just joy in a way. Not that somebody needs help, but that they trust you and will come to you.
Like respecting the vulnerability. Like
Yeah.
you respect, like it's almost when someone asks me for help, I respect them for being vulnerable
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Absolutely, because it's hard. It's really hard.
It is really hard. That's really beautiful. Yeah, and when I think about like when someone asks me for help, and I've got four siblings or whatever, and I've got a younger sister. Whenever she asks me for help, I just feel so good. Like I just can't wait. And there's some people in my life I love it when they ask me for help. I just feel our relationship strengthens, and I really respect that. I respect it.
Yeah.
Respect that vulnerability.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, vulnerability is a big topic these days because it really does. This last year, and Inga just said it in our chat, especially this past year. This last year has been really challenging for a lot of people. A lot of worlds were turned upside down. Your daily activities they came to a halt. You were sent home. You maybe couldn't work for, a said period of time. Your kids couldn't go to school. Everything changed. And in those moments, it was the holy cow, how are we going to manage all of this without the normal means of what we do our days with? So this past year has just been super challenging, and vulnerability has come to the surface. It's come to the surface, and asking for help has too. And it's not easy. And when you find a community of people that feel the very same way you do about something, it makes it a whole lot easier to ask and to show up that way.
I love that. I like that you just said show up that way. It is showing up because when you show up in that way in your relationships, they actually get a lot stronger too, because then you're being vulnerable and you are, yeah, it goes both ways. It goes both ways.
It does. It really does. And I think, there's a ripple effect. There's a ripple effect in everything that has to do with the heart and the soul, right? But I think the ripple effect of you even putting yourself out there and asking for help shows people that it's okay. I have had lots of conversations with people. Well, you know me, I don't ask for help. Well, okay, why not? When were you told that you couldn't ask for help? And we know where that comes from, right? It comes from our childhood when we may have asked a parent or an authority figure for help, and A, they didn't have time, B, they wouldn't explain to us why or what was going on, just because, or whatever it might be that shuts us down. That's what makes it so hard to show up that way again, because we've been shut down for so long and the vulnerability just gets squashed. We just makes it really hard to understand the power of asking for help when we've been shut down before.
Yeah. And I want to talk some too about like when do you know? So for me, like I sometimes don't realize I need help until it's like you go
Involved.
through something that you're trying to attack or whatever, and then it's not apparent in the beginning. And at first I have spent time judging myself for, gosh, I should have asked for help earlier. But then I was having a conversation with one of my Patreon members, and we were talking about how actually you won't know until you go through the process.
Oh my gosh,
You
it's so
won't know.
right. Right. Do you have a specific example that you're thinking of? Because I sure do.
Oh, please tell me your specific example.
Oh boy. Well, and it's so funny, not in the ha-ha funny way, but in the irony funny way that sometimes we don't know that we are in need of help until we have failed at something, or something else tells us that. And my example goes back to college. And I had a really traumatic experience in college. And the semester following that experience, I thought I was doing everything I could. Well, I was doing everything I could to have a good semester and be a good student and succeed. And unfortunately, I failed out of school that semester. And I mean, I didn't even get the warning. UW La Crosse said, "You are so bad, we're just kicking you out. You're out." I didn't get the one semester warning. It was pretty rough. And I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Because I need to finish school. I needed that in my life to move forward. That was the path I was on. And I immediately realized I couldn't do it alone. I immediately realized I needed help. And so I wrote a letter to the dean of students. I told him I was going to get help. I mapped out my plan, and I went, I wrote it, I sent it. Then I met with him and I crafted this plan, and I got back into school and finished. But it wasn't until that immediacy of, oh God, now what have I done to myself? I didn't look for help. I was afraid to ask for help in that moment. And I was embarrassed, and there was a lot of shame and just that broken feeling of, "Ugh, I don't have anybody to go to. I have to do it on my own."
Right.
And I didn't. And once I didn't, things improved. So, like an extreme example, maybe, but it still sits with me. And when you said what you did when you were, after you recorded the cover of Lean on Me, it hit me in that moment. And I was like, yeah, I remember that feeling of knowing I didn't have to do this by myself anymore. And it was an empowered feeling. The judge went away, the victim went away, the shame went away. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. It's
Um,
okay to.
You totally just said three things that when they happen simultaneously. It's three against one. You have a judge, a victim, and this other being that's called shame and guilt and all that kind of feeling happens. And when it's funny, actually, once you kind of knock down one of them and you decide to not judge yourself, the other two get kind of quiet too.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that it's either, I find them to be either very, very loud or very quiet, depending on what I've, where I'm at with things. We've got people in the comments saying, yeah, vulnerability to ask. Here's Charlotte going, see, asking can happen. I love this. And this was actually Charlotte and I were talking about this. So she goes, asking can often happen with the catalyst of an inquiry into our present state. So keeping open to others, yeah, affect is important always.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's you had to go down the path of trying to get this degree, and sometimes we don't realize we need help until we realize it. And I think when you said that you got rid of the judge, the victim, and any of the shame involved, um when you realize that you can't do it alone, the faster you squash those, the faster then you can get through it. And I
Right.
think it's so easy to judge ourselves. I know I do it when I maybe don't quite hit the mark on something, but you won't know until you start doing it.
Right.
So with Charlotte saying this, keeping that open mind, open to the present state, like if we keep an open mind, then there have been times that I've had things happen. I recently have someone I'm starting to work with who's a marketing intern,
Oh,
and I am struggling with, I've got some single releases coming out. I got a lot of stuff going on, but I am approaching things a little more open than I have before in the past. So that when the opportunity kind of came up, I'm like, yes, someone who's going to help, and I'm going to help them. And so I was open to it. And I think, so hi, Natasha, if you're listening to this, but I'm open to trying to be open to that, like Charlotte's saying, that present state, then I think allows us to kind of jump over that little hurdle of the judge, the victim, and feeling shame.
it does. It really does. And I think that there's something to be said for knowing that I don't want to say taking advantage of, but using other people's experiences as a means of helping, and really their expertise based on what they know or have been through can get you over that hurdle, because it can give you the information you need, the detail you need, the aha moment you need in order to move forward faster. You know, Mary Beth just said that it's hard to ask when you've always been the strong one.
I'm so
You
glad
know?
you said that comment, because I saw it and I was like, Mary, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, when you've always been the strong one, like everyone perceives you as the strong one, and really on the inside, you're like, it's not true, or it can be true, but I need you now. And I think that's where vulnerability comes into play, because we can be strong and we can be fearless and we can still ask for help.
Those are not two opposites. They are the same. In fact, I find that people who are able to recognize when they need a hand, I view them as very strong. And the strength then comes in. Now you're strong because you now know what you need help with.
Right. Oh,
Or you talk about
right.
your classes and how you then developed a plan. Yes, you were getting help, but you were still in the driver's seat,
Right.
and help, when we help someone, we don't just take over like the thing. It's help, it's aiding them.
Yeah.
They are the strong one, and then the people who support you are now feeling that strength. It's actually it's hard because I feel the same way. I mean, I do so much independently as a
Yes.
DL position, and part of me always thinks like, well, I have to do this myself. No, I don't.
Mm-mm.
And actually there's been more strength coming from the fact that I have leaned on my patrons on Patreon and such, and surprisingly, it's made our relationship, not surprisingly, but it's made our relationships better. It's made me stronger. It's made, I'm sure I've added value to them too. It builds. We're building something out of nothing by asking for help. And
yeah, it becomes more natural too. And Angela just said something really that kind of leads into that. The fear can be so isolating, but there's a spark when we realize there are others who can and even want to support us.
there's a spark when we realize that there are others who can even want to.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it one more time because Angela, that really speaks loudly to me. Spark when we realize there are others who can even want to support us. You said something, Joanne, at the beginning of this live stream, and you said, and we all know where this comes from, this quieting of our vulnerability is child. Everything, I swear, everything comes from our childhood.
I know. Why are you whispering that? Because it's so true.
Oh my gosh. You know, like when you get really like, not angry, I'm not angry, but I'm like, clenching my fist. Sometimes I get quiet because like, it's so true. And I have nothing against my childhood. They're just, we were, that was when we were creating all of these connections, and they are the strongest, I find.
Yes, it's so true. Yes. And in fact, I mean, Angela even said earlier that, as a child, when you ask for help, there's no vulnerability. You're just a child. You don't know. You are learning, and you just naturally inquire and ask for help. And what happens is that we don't always get led down the path of knowing it's okay to continue to ask. And, that's when we start to realize, oh, maybe it's hard to ask, like Joanne said, it's hard to ask for help, or I feel like I have to do this on my own. And because I didn't get what I needed when I was a child, but that's.
And Joanne says, I should know how to do this.
Oh, that's the worst.
And that happens every time in our brains. Well, I should be able to do this.
Right. Who says you should be able to do this if you've never done it before?
Who says if you had the childlike mindset, you wouldn't be saying should, because you would just try. You would just try it. And and what you're bringing up though too is that you don't necessarily have to have a bad childhood in order to have issues later on.
Yeah.
These are things that come from society or just anything. You could have had a great childhood and all the proper coping mechanisms, and then things get a little wonky.
Yep. Wonky is such a great word, isn't it? Yes, they do. And I believe that comes from, the expectations that people put on us, right? And when people put those expectations on us, it causes us to react in this way that maybe isn't natural to who we are, but then we spin up this idea of what their expectations have of us and how we need to respond, which is, independently have all the answers. Pride gets in the way. It's really synchronistic in our conversation that I'm looking to the right of me at a wonderful picture of a bunch of men that I've worked with for years in my previous job at Cisco, my career. And one of the things that I would tell them is, don't flounder searching for an answer. Come to me and let me help you. And that just hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, I used to tell them not to flounder. Don't flounder. Just let's work it out together. Or I may have the answer more quickly, or can get you a resource that has the answer. But why do we flounder in our personal lives then? If I'm telling these guys, don't flounder, just ask for help. That's a great thing to remember when I sit here floundering over something that I'm trying to figure out for 3 hours, when I could have found someone who knew how to do it more quickly.
Oh my gosh. Okay, anyone out there, this has happened to you and I before, but we will talk about a topic, and we know, like, we've either given this advice, okay, like Joanne's actually given me some advice where I'm like, oh, I've totally said that same thing to someone else. And she's saying the same thing. Has anyone out there like done that with a friend, where maybe like they give you a piece of advice, then later on you find yourself giving them the same piece of advice because we don't always just all the situations are different and we need reminders.
Yes.
And this is where the
Human
should
nature.
comes in. It's okay to get reminders, and that's when the should comes in, because we're like, well, I should have known to do that. And there's no room for should, because
Well,
it doesn't help. It doesn't help. That's probably where the list of why we shouldn't use should stops.
it is. It's true. It's the word that every time I hear someone, and I feel like a broken record, no pun intended here, but every time I hear someone say, I should do this, I tell them that's the wrong word. It's a power struggle word. It gives you this pressure that, oh, I should have done that. Okay, well, no. You either could have done that and you didn't for X reason, or maybe you're going to go do that now. But should is this icky word, should and must. Blech. Pressure.
I wish I would have done this earlier, and so now I will do X.
Right.
Yeah. Now I do want to make a comment though about this whole idea of floundering a little bit. I think there are some benefits though, like when you
Mhm.
like struggle through a process yourself and uncover that's the only way I know of like how to uncover when I do need help, is actually going through the process and hitting like a little bit of a brick wall. It just becomes an issue for me when I keep breaking through those brick walls myself, and then I eventually have no more energy to break through even a piece of like paper, like one of the paper things they hold up with a big sign that the
Yeah,
football
run through.
runs through, like it's like pre-broken. Like I get to a point where I'm like, I can't even get through that. And that's when I realize there's an issue. And I would used to, that's the point I would ask for help. Now I ask for it maybe after the first brick wall or something.
Right. Right.
Like,
Well, I mean, there's a curiosity, back to being in the present moment and staying curious. There is a curiosity and a sense of accomplishment that comes when we're able to work through something and figure it out on our own. Though community, building your tribe, as Mary Beth just said, it really does give us such a strong opportunity to learn from other people's experiences, though. And I believe we all have a journey that we're on, and we need to learn from the experiences, what came in the past and what's coming in the future. But that doesn't mean that we can't learn from watching other people and asking their advice or for their help in any given moment. Right?
right. Yeah. Like something too that comes up, Melanie just wrote adulting is hard, it is. You never know everything. You don't. I always wish I would, but I never will. It's
I love
actually
what she said, though, that when you're a kid, you feel like when you're an adult, you're just going to know it all. And then it's like, where'd that go?
Yeah, I actually miss being a kid and feeling, I miss the moments when I felt like I knew a lot about something, because the more you learn, the more you realize, the less you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. One of the things that I found, I know I went through a period in my life where I was allowing some toxic relationships into my life. And that really like that really messed up my compass as far as like my trust kind of compass, and like who I can trust and all that. And I'm really fortunate now. I've got people in my life that are really healthy relationships with them. It's great. And it's easy for me now to know that I can, if I need help, I can ask for it. But there was a time when it was twofold. One, it was hard for me to ask for help, really hard at that point in my life. And then also I had some people around me that would hold it above my head. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
like, how do you like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna ask for help, and then like, who do I ask? Because there's times when we get our trust broken, or our trust with other people is broken. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It's tricky because I think that, sometimes even the closest of friends aren't in a position to help with what you might, but that likely stems from the inability to be vulnerable and let people really see you. And I really believe that um, knowing what comes out of the request for help helps us decide who we can go to. So it is, what am I looking for when I ask for help? If it's informational or how to do something, that's completely different than when it's something soulful and deep seated that, is in front of you that you want to address. There's a couple different things that we're talking about, really. And I think, and I really think this based on my own experience, that it's trial and error. You might put yourself out there and ask for help and get advice that you're like, what the heck does that even mean? And it may not make sense. And so one of the things that I've discovered in working with some of my energy healing friends and spiritual leaders, or anybody that I might seek help and advice from, is they say, take what resonates and leave the rest. Like, you don't have to take everything I say. And if something connects with you, take that with you, but leave the rest. That's okay. And when you find people who you can have that kind of a conversation with, that level of trust completely changes, because you know that they care about you and not about what they're saying necessarily.
What they're getting.
Or what they're getting. Exactly.
Oh, there was so many good things that you just said there. Really kind of going back to that it almost sounded like you were talking about how, with the trial and error, right, of knowing who you want to ask for help from, but then being clear about what you're going to get, and if you really want it from that person, right?
Yes,
When it's not
exactly.
information, you
Yes,
know.
exactly. Well, yeah, because then to know the people in front of you well enough, if maybe they're judgmental. Maybe you don't want to ask someone who's judgmental because you're feeling super vulnerable, or maybe they're really opinionated and you're not quite, go ahead.
No, I love this. I love where you're going. I'm cataloging my idea, because you're just highlighting things that you learn that about that person, from interactions with them, and sometimes from asking them.
Absolutely. Yes.
What feelings do you feel after you ask person X for help? And
Right.
then it starts to feel like that, and not very good,
Right.
then that's the trial and error.
Right. And it actually turns into a game. Like, it can be a fun game, but the game of phone a friend. Remember? I don't Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I think, was the game show that had phone a friend. It
Yeah.
gets to be this, I know which friends and which people in my life that I can go to for which things. And it becomes more of an art than a guessing game after you start to put your foot out there, dip your toe in the water, as they say, right? Get your foot out there and just stay vulnerable and ask.
I like that. Now, I think all of this though comes back to that feeling of, like, I feel like as I've gotten to know myself better, it's become easier, because I know more of what I need in certain times, right? Like, there are some friends who, like, love their opinions, really do, and they're very valuable. But there are some times when maybe I need to be, uh, like, I'm a little too vulnerable and I just need a little boost. And I have some friends that maybe aren't the best for that,
Yeah.
but uh, maybe I will lean on them when I really need, like, hard advice on something.
Right. With love, right?
Well,
With love.
always,
Always
always
with love.
love. Now, not always have my relationships been that way. When you think about, I think, let's see, was it Angela said something about that toxicity overrides our own intuition, and
Mm,
that in those moments, because that's happened to me, I have had toxic relationships. I wrote a song about it called You Ain't Missing a Thing, which is about getting out of that and realizing you aren't missing anything by not having them in your life. But when
Well, I
I've
can't
had
wait to talk about that topic.
that one too, oh my god, that one would be like a 3-weeker because there's so many. If
Yeah.
you're if you're in that toxic kind of cycle with someone, and then there's any manipulation happening with when you're asking for help, that's when it gets really confusing and it gets wonky in your head, and like Angela said, it kind of overrides our own intuition. And I've started to become more in tune with that. And you mentioned something about like you start talking about feelings that you get from certain people, and how you know to go to certain people. And I've started to really listen to, it's actually made it easier because of the pandemic. I'm connecting with fewer people,
Yeah.
so my intuition is getting a little louder because it's not as noisy. And I've been really trying to focus on that. How do I feel after I talk to person X, you know,
Mhm.
and
Absolutely.
getting real with that.
Yes. Oh, and it can be, that can be really tough. It can be really tough because this person could be really close to you, and yet you hang up the phone and you're like, what just happened? That, and I know when when we have just audio and the video isn't there in the podcast with the audio only, nobody will see the face I just made, but it's that drained, energy lost face, right? Of what just happened. And that's the moment when, you did get up and go listen to some really great music or go for a walk around the block, make some tea, right? Something to get your energy back. Um, but it can be really tough. And that being said, Inga brought up a good point, and that's fear. That fear can keep us from asking for help, fear of exposing what we don't know, and some weird expectation that we should already know it. And that fear comes into play, and it can be really deep seated. And what you just said plays right into that.
Yeah. So this is our second show, and neither show has been about fear. But I'm just going to call this out for everyone watching and listening. Why don't we keep a tally of each show and see if fear is mentioned within the show? Maybe we should hold out to like, don't do one on fear. But like, I bet every time fear will come into the picture. It's, gosh, as
I
it's
agree. I agree.
his little hands and everything.
Yes, it does. It sure does. And I love how it's coming to the surface for so many though. I really do. I feel like this time that we're in this country and in this world, and with everything that's transpired in the last year and a half to 2 years, it's truly either love or fear that we're going to live our lives with. And we just need to remember to pick love. The fear does not take us any place that is in the right direction. It can teach us, it can be there for us, but it is not the place to live from.
I like what you just said. There's a point I think at which we all almost fear, because once we realize how bad it is and how it's steered us in the wrong direction. I know this personally. I was like, well, I'm just not going to be fearful anymore. Because I'm afraid of fear. But it's like, no. Like the fear taught us things. It is a feeling that is useful. If I have fear talking to someone or asking them for certain advice, even though the way my relationship is set up, I should be able to ask them for this. If I have fear involved with that, it's not the fear that's the bad thing. The fear is indicating that there's something wrong here,
Mhm.
and it either needs to get figured out, or I just can't go to that person anymore, and that's going to be just kind of it, you
Right.
know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You just nailed it. That
An
you go ahead.
indicator. Yeah.
Indicator, an indicator. Yes. It is.
Chemistry.
Is that a chemistry term?
A lot in chemistry, so my brain just lit up with chemistry stuff that connected it with visual for me.
Does everybody know what you do on the side? Since music is your first love.
Music is my first love. I did. I had to pick up I actually part-time teach now. So COVID has really changed my life and everybody's. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Charlotte just said, "Oh, it's going to go away. I have to get it again." Can you see it? What Charlotte says?
Yeah, it is also good. Charlotte says it's also good to have friends that help unfold an answer to the unspoken question by just looking at your face or listening to your hesitation and answering, how are you doing?
Right.
Oh, Charlotte, that is like, it's so powerful to have someone who knows you well ask you how you're doing. And if the relationship is strong, like sometimes that how are you doing is different than a simple how are you doing? It's like a crap, they noticed.
Right.
And you're kind of happy they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the whole happy they did. Yes. It sometimes it feels like we get so wrapped up in a conversation that we actually forget to really inquire. We just go down the path of whatever's on our mind and we forget to get at the heart of what might really be going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's pretty cool when you do have relationships like that. So I
Hmm.
guess from us talking about this though, I really liked a couple of things we brought up about like fear. Using fear is just, it's not the emotion that we want to drive from, but it's something that indicates certain things.
Uh-huh.
And we all love helping other people. Like, everyone who's on this live stream right now, if we're all alike in that. And I think most of us feel like we have to be the strong one. I forget who said that earlier, but I connected really deeply with
Mary
that.
did.
Mary, yeah, and I should know how to do this by Joanne. I love that. It's and just recognizing when you do need help. And honestly, at the end of the day, if you recognize you do need help and then maybe you find out that people around you aren't good for bouncing ideas off of or aren't supporting you in ways you want, like, either way, isn't it good? Because you now recognize your relationships maybe aren't
Right.
up to snuff.
Right. And I think maybe to close that out, and we could talk about, I think you and I've discovered we could probably carry on a conversation about any topic for a long period of time.
Oh yeah, we can probably wrap
Wow.
up.
Yeah, but I believe that Inga said, finding her tribe, finding the people she connects with has been so important for her to be vulnerable and put herself out there. And, they're out there. Your tribe is out there. Your people are out there. And it's trial and error, and keep trying, keep doing, keep asking, because they will surface. They will surface. We are fully supported and divinely guided, and they will surface when the time is right.
I just got chills. I
Me
think you have
too.
to really believe that in order for it to come into your life, that you
Absolutely.
are fully supported, even if you aren't right now or don't feel like you are right now,
Mhm.
you are. Wow. I had a moment in my life, real quick, and I won't tell you the whole story, but I had been really separated from everyone I cared about. And and it was on purpose by this toxic relationship I had, really separating me from people that I love and cared for. But in the time that I separated from that relationship, yes, some of those relationships weren't there anymore that I had had before, but I was still fully supported in ways I couldn't fathom that was fully the case. And so you'd be surprised. So you almost have to just trust that it's there and really trust that you are fully supported and that maybe you just haven't met them quite yet.
Oh,
Right.
you just gave me goosebumps everywhere. And it brought it forward that what you just talked about, and how in a relationship we can become isolated, that maybe it's someone wants, for toxic reasons, doesn't want you to be connected to your people anymore.
That was exactly it. Exactly that
Yeah.
statement.
And the vulnerability and the trust and the internal power it takes to reapproach the people that you disconnected from is so hard, but so important, because those people, they watch from the outside what's happening and they see from their perspective what's happening without being able to communicate with you in those moments, but yet they want to be part of your life. And so to be able to step back in and ask for help and then share, let them know where you were coming from, what was happening, just brings that relationship right back to where it could be again. And I've watched this with friends and even in my own situation, where you step away for whatever reason and then coming back in is that much more powerful. And oof, you're gonna make me cry. Okay.
No, you're going to make me cry. This whole thing, because lean on me when you're not strong.
Yes.
It's almost also a message, and what we
Oof.
just uncovered is this holding space for someone. And if you are on the outside and you recognize something's happening, even if it's not the right timing now, holding space for someone, I'm getting chills by thinking this feeling of
Yeah.
knowing that I had people in my life that I legit thought that I had ruined those relationships because I was being manipulated by someone else to ruin them. I still took credit for it because
Right.
that's,
You're
it
in the
was my,
moment.
fault is not quite the right word, but it was my doing. And they held space for me. They held space. I might cry. It was the greatest gift that anyone could offer me, to know that after a relationship had separated in ways that I wasn't even that happy with, to know that then when I could reach back out, they had held space for me.
Mm.
Oof.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Inga goes, amen. Oh my gosh, we were supposed to cry today.
I
We're
know.
talking. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We should wrap up. We we don't have our topic picked for next week. Someone talked about maybe us doing that toxic idea of once you get rid of a toxic person, that you aren't missing anything, even though they might make you think that you are. We could do that song. That's my original song, You Ain't Missing a Thing, and I'd be happy to do a cover of that. We also want
I
to
love
take song requests too, right? So we want to do anything. So in the comments, let us know what you think about that idea, or if you have other ideas.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
we
really like that idea. And I really appreciate how we can lead into the next song and our flexibility together to, just be able to shift and pivot based on what comes up. And I think that's why you keep asking, tell us what you want to hear about. And even if there's a song that, you resonate with, let us know. Because if you resonate with it, we likely do too. And, we can make our way through that, except for March 26th, when we're going to pick a song that I haven't quite picked yet. I've been working on that to honor, moms, motherhood, my mom, and that relationship. And boy, I tell you, I have been filtering through the songs to try and find that.
Yeah, when you have relationships, trying to find one song that there's never one song that fully,
No,
you will
no.
never, this is one of the most powerful things in music. um and there shouldn't be, there will never be one song that is your life. It
Mhm.
is one moment in your life, one emotion in your life, and one time in your life, and it will mean different things at different times. But it takes more than just one song, which is why we need to do this every week, because we're all experiencing these feelings.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Oh, Charlotte goes, crying is release, opens room for love from others moving forward. Yes, thank you, because I cried a little bit. Well, why
Oh,
don't we do that? So next week I'll perform You Ain't Missing a Thing, and I'll have the lyrics. I'll post the video like real late Wednesday night, probably is what I'll do. So Thursday you can jump on and listen to it. And then the video for Lean on Me, it's in the, should be in the discussion, or not the discussion, but the
description.
detail.
Yep, the
Let's see.
details.
Yep.
Perfect. That is perfect. Now, and so remind me, and so everybody knows, you can't sing a little bit of it for us.
Our live stream will be flagged for copyright infringement. So I'm just gonna keep that on the cover tune videos.
Yes.
We'll just let those videos get flagged, and we won't. Now I can do it, I think, for my own original because I own it. So what we could do for next week is we can play the song at the beginning and the outro of this.
Yes. That's perfect. And I think if anybody has not listened to Kelsey's version, her cover of Lean on Me, you really, it brought me to tears the whole entire time. So listen, not because I want you to be brought to tears, but because of the beautiful tones and the interpretation is simply incredible. And subscribe to follow the channel, right? Your YouTube channel. Check us out at other places. But really, you guys, we are here. This is so much fun, Kelsey. I love we're week 2, the power of asking for help.
I also really appreciated everyone being part of the chat. That
Love
really,
it.
this is our Friday, 11:45 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we just all get to come together. And as you can see in the chat, none of us are alone. We're all feeling a lot of the same feels right now, which is awesome. So
Yeah, yes, it is.
cool.
Good.
All right, everyone.
Have good
This was
weekends.
awesome.
It was so
Have
much fun.
great. I know. All right. Well, I'm going to share that music in the intro again. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and we will see you again next Friday.